Joined by my friend Steven. We're going to talk some baseball real quick. First of all, Steven, how are you, my friend?
I am great, Shaner. How are you doing?
I've been better. Been better since that NFC Championship game.
That's a tough one. Losing on home.
I was real bad Sunday night. I about 24 hours. It's been 48 hours since that game. After about 24, I was moving on. It wasn't. I'll talk about this with James too, but I've been through this now 4 straight times. 4 NFC Championship appearances since the Super Bowl in 2010. Lost each one. 2 of those were just blowouts. This one hurts, but it's nothing compared to 2014, which was literally snatched away from me. Because we went into Seattle. I didn't give Green Bay much of a chance at all. They led the entire game. They were up 12 points with about 4 minutes to 5 minutes left and somehow blew it. That one hurt. That hurt. I hurt from that for about a month. This one not so much because we didn't deserve to win.
Yeah.
But I'm hurting, but it is what it is.
I've been through a couple of different times with my team, so I know how that feels.
Shit, dude. I've lost a Stanley Cup. I've lost 4 NFC Championship games in a row. Just about. This sucks. Can't land a job. Just sucks.
Everything seems to be piling, doesn't it?
What's that?
Everything seems to be piling on, doesn't it?
I was thinking, when I was in my dark place, I was like, I just can't get one fucking thing to go my way. Just once.
That's all I ask for.
Just one thing. Just one fucking thing. If it's a job, great. But I was like, if I'm going to be this part-time, feel like this loser for months, almost a year now, of looking for a job, can my team at least win the Super Bowl? Is that too much to ask?
That's too much to ask.
All right. Let's talk some baseball. First of all, we didn't talk about this, but one of the main reasons, or not one of the main reasons, I'm sorry. One of the things I wanted to touch up on was the recent trade between the Cleveland Indians and the New York Mets. Pretty big blockbuster deal. Francisco Lindor and Carlos Carrasco get sent to the Mets. I forget what the Mets sent or who the Mets sent in return. I know one player was Ahmed Rosario, which he's an above-average player. Between him and Lindor, that you're going to take Lindor 10 times out of 10. I forget who else the Mets sent though, but it was actually a pretty cheap deal.
I think Rosario. I think the Indians. Rosario was the centerpiece of the deal. If you like, I believe they got. I want to say it was 2 hitters and a pitching prospect, but it was the rest of it was all prospects. Ahmed Rosario was the only MLB guy.
Yeah.
I think it's a great move. I think it shows what we talked about, that Steve Cohen is really not playing around. He's really going to lay all his cards on the table and try and build a winner in New York, which is so. When you've got the media market that they have, when you've got the money that they have, when you've got the exposure that they have, when you've got the backing that they have, it's just so easy to build a winner in New York. And I never understand how any team in New York, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, I don't understand how any team in New York is not successful with the amount of resources and things like that. So you see,
for the most part, they're all. What's odd though is with New York, there's always one power team, I would say, the clearly better organization compared to the other. Because there's, 2 professional sports teams in New York for each of the big 4 leagues. 3 if you count, or 9 if you count New Jersey Devils, I assume. We'll just go with the 8, though, based in New York. You got the Yankees, which are the clear better organization than the Mets. You got the Giants, who are the clear better organization than the Jets.
I don't know. Those 2 are pretty equally dumpster fire
right now. Only right now. As a whole, the Giants have been way more successful than the Jets.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
There was another one. What was I just thinking of? Oh, the Rangers. I don't know. I'd argue the Rangers have had
more success.
Yeah, I might switch that. In the last
market,
30,
they're kind of the outside, the team on the outside that's a little bit of that's a smaller market team. They're out on Long Island.
That's such a weird team too.
City. Yeah.
Like, I always thought they were, for the longest time, I thought they were based like in Brooklyn, and no, they're way out there in Long Island, Belmont, pretty much. But I would argue, at least, maybe not the better organization, but more popular. The Yankees are more popular than the Mets. Giants are probably more popular than the Jets. Rangers are definitely more popular than the Islanders. And then, what sport am I missing? The Knicks are definitely more popular than the Nets. So, I forget where I was going with that. I just meant, I think when you're competing with the Yankees, you have to do your best. But even though you might be lesser than the other team in your sport in New York, you're going to be able to attract whoever you want because, in my opinion, because it's New York. I'm except for the Knicks, apparently, who can't attract anybody.
Well, the Knicks are a
dumpster fire,
or a complete and utter dumpster fire being run into the ground by whomever is running them these days. I don't know if it's the Dolans still or not, but
it is still the Dolans.
It's still the Dolans. So it was they're a whole fiasco to themselves. But yeah, I totally agree. To bring it back to the Mets, I mean, yes, they are 1B in that city, but the city is so big. There's so much resources. It's so easy to attract talent there. There's no reason why this type of thing shouldn't happen all the time. So it's a great trade for New York, obviously.
Yeah. It really shows Cohen is committed to what I don't know if he said he was going to do, but the idea has been he's going to turn the Mets into a winner if he can. And he's been on the job just a few months, and he's done that. He's made some good free agent acquisitions. He's traded for Francisco Lindor. He may not be done. He may still get Trevor Bauer.
He may have the two best acquisitions so far, with the third best maybe to come. I mean, I think the James McCann signing is really undervalued. I think he's going to be a really good piece there. And then obviously Lindor, and don't overlook Cookie Carrasco. I mean, he lost the better part of one of his prime years to cancer. Unfortunately, it's a great story to be able to come back, beat it, and come back and pitch it in the major leagues. But he is still, of course, he's not going to be a frontline guy. There's no need for him to be with all the pitching talent.
Mm-hmm. He's not going to be the number one. It's going to be DeGrom.
DeGrom's the best pitcher in the league. I still think Noah Syndergaard can go at it with the best of them. Steven Matz is still a good pitcher, very, very serviceable.
You're asking him to be the third or fourth guy, and I think he's better than that. But I mean, I think that's perfect for him.
Being probably the way they'll set it up, obviously they'll have DeGrom and Syndergaard going 1-2, but probably the way they'll set it up, or the way at least I would be to go Matz and then Carrasco, just to get that lefty-righty dichotomy. But I mean, having a guy like Carrasco that's pitched in World Series, that's pitched for really successful Indian teams with really good rotations, as your number 4 guy, and it's I think that's really undervalued. I think he's obviously the flash and the headlines are all going to be Lindor.
Yeah.
But overlooked. Don't overlook Carrasco because he's a really, really good pitcher.
Do you think this puts the Mets in a position to win the NL East? Because I think they're probably a wild card team. I don't know. The Braves are still pretty good.
So going into this year, they were probably a fringe wild card team, depending on how the playoffs work this year. Whether they go back to the 2 wild card teams, or they kind of.
I thought I read that they turned down the expanded playoffs again. Did they not?
Yeah, they did pretty recently. So probably going into this year with the same roster, like I said, I mean, still probably a fringe wild card team fighting for that second spot. I think this puts them squarely in the mix to obviously fight for either of those wild card spots. I don't know. The Braves are just so damn good. I think they can compete with the Braves. I think they can compete with the Nationals, who still have the best starting rotation in the major leagues, but still may not have the best rotation in that division. Like, I mean, there's just so much talent in that division. It's kind of top heavy talent. The Phillies just signed JT Realmuto again. Obviously, Bryce is still there.
That's a team I can't figure out.
Philly. Everything points to Philly being a contender until they're not. I mean, they're just one of those teams. It's a lot like a lot of other teams.
Didn't they get? Is Chris Bryant signed? I thought he signed with the Phillies. Did he not? Or is he in?
He hasn't yet. I mean, there's been talk of because I don't think he has.
I think I've seen this week, maybe over the weekend, teams were still in on him. So I guess he's still available. I'm not sure he's even a free agent.
I don't think he is. I think he's part of the free agent class next year, maybe the year after next. Whatever it is, he's definitely on the block. I've seen a lot of things where he is.
Where did Kyle Schwarber go? I think that's who I'm thinking of.
Schwarber go? Did Schwarber go to the Nats?
I thought it was an NL East team. Honestly, I thought it was the Phillies, but it could have been the Nationals.
Did he sign with the Nats?
Let me look. He plays for the Washington Nationals. You are correct.
Yeah, I think he signed like a 1-year deal.
I think that might be who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, so I don't know. The NL East, and we can get into this closer to beginning of the season when things are a little bit more concrete. But the NL East is just so top heavy. I mean, the Marlins snuck up and made the playoffs in an expanded playoffs last year. But, I mean, if they perform like they did last year, who knows? Obviously, the Braves are going to be there as one of the best teams in the league. The Mets are positioning themselves to vault themselves into that category as one of the best teams in the league. Nats aren't going anywhere. They're getting a little bit older, but still aren't going anywhere. And then you kind of have the wild card in the Phillies, who could be great, might not be. It's just I don't know if it's just so early to kind of pick a horse, so to say, in that in that division. But man, that's gonna be a fun one to watch.
Yeah. I thought there was one more thing I wanted to discuss, but now I can't think of it. But let's go ahead and get into what we set out to talk about, which is the Hall of Fame voting, which is an atrocity this year. First time, I thought I heard first time ever that no one is getting in, but I'm pretty sure it's not the first time that they have voted no one in, like by the writers.
No. It's the first time the writers haven't voted anybody in since like 1960.
Did they not do it in like 2013 or 14?
Or 2013, the writers didn't vote anybody in, but the
Veterans
did.
That's what I thought it was. So no one's getting in the Veterans Committee either?
The Veterans Committee didn't vote. They usually have their meeting and vote at the winter meetings.
But winter meetings were what, postponed or something, I guess?
Yeah, that just didn't happen this year. So,
okay.
So the problem would have been a Veterans Committee class, like the 2020 class of with Jeter and Larry Walker. There was also a Veterans Committee class of Ted Simmons and Marvin Miller. They would have that would have been somebody would have gotten in.
Right.
But since they didn't have the meeting, nobody gets in.
That is so
it's
stupid.
Unheard of, but it's not. It's not common.
No, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. Like, look, I'm gonna pull up the ballot here.
I don't disagree with you, but this class is very, very not weak. I mean, they're all.
I don't disagree. It wasn't a great Hall of Fame ballot.
not like the classes we've seen the past couple of years where there's a shoe-in first-timer, and there's a guy that's been on the ballot that's been gaining ground, and there just wasn't that type of player on this draft.
I thought Schilling was that guy. I really did, because last year he was at 70%. He was up 10%, and then the previous year before that, I think he was in like the 20s. He had a huge jump at some point. I thought this was going to be his year to get on the ballot. We'll just go ahead and talk about this. He ends up coming up just short at 71%. You need 75 to get in. I really thought Schilling was going to get in. I'm a big Kurt Schilling guy. I'm a fan of his. I've been arguing he needs to be in the Hall of Fame by now. I sent it to my dad because my dad was like, what are his numbers? Anything holding him back? And I said, his record is 216 and 146. His ERA is a little bad, 3.46, not ideal. But 3,000 strikeouts, 6-time All-Star, 3-time World Series champ, and a World Series MVP in 2001. I mean, the dude should be in the Hall. And he's not. Let's be honest. I don't want to get political here, but let's be honest. He's not in because of his political affiliation.
Yeah, probably. I mean, there's been a lot of guys that have talked themselves into the Hall of Fame. Putting aside the guys that get in for broadcasting. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have either talked themselves or have had other people talk themselves into the Hall of Fame. I don't know if we've ever had anybody that's talked themselves out of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
but it kind of seems
I was just about to touch up on that. He has not elected to withdraw his name from the ballot. He's going to get in through the Veterans Committee, which he's going to get in. I don't know when they can do that, but
Veterans Committee will put him in first, whenever they are able to. And it's so I don't know. I love baseball, but the Baseball Hall of Fame voting just seems so odd to me.
It's so stupid.
It's this group of and don't take offense to this, Shane. Just a bunch of.
If you're bashing the media, I'm not going to be offended.
I mean, I just don't understand how these guys are so high and mighty. I get it. Baseball is the most storied and tradition-rich sport of the big four.
Yeah.
Maybe hockey gives it a run, but with baseball, tradition means everything, and all of these things. It just blows my mind that something like that can keep out a guy who should be in the Hall of Fame. Kurt Schilling should be a Hall of Famer.
Is he first ballot? No. Second, third, fourth. He should be in. This is his 9th year on the ballot.
Exactly. I mean, the Game 6 in 2004 in the ALCS should get him in alone, throwing on a freaking torn Achilles or whatever he was doing. Throwing 7 and 2/3 with the bloody sock, the whole 9. That should get him in alone. That blows my mind. But I mean, all of this, all of these sports writers and baseball guys that just get up on this pedestal and they're so holier than thou about this Hall of Fame vote.
I'm not disagreeing with you. You made it seem like I would be offended. I'm not. I literally was texting with my dad today. So back to the NFC Championship thing I was talking about with Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers has his meeting with the media or whatever after the game, and all he said was like how much he wanted to win this year because with the salary cap going down exponentially this offseason, a lot of guys aren't going to be with the team next year. They're going to have to make some hard decisions and cut some guys, trade some guys, whatever, restructure deals. Going to leave a lot of guys out in the open as free agents. And he said he wanted to win with this team. He really liked this team. And it didn't get it done. So he said a lot of guys' futures are now uncertain. And all he said was, including my own. And you would have thought the media painted it like you would have thought Aaron Rodgers was saying, get me the hell out of Green Bay right now. And so I was texting with my dad today, and I was like, this is so stupid because today – sorry, I'm still on my monologue here, but today the Packers CEO and president, basically the owner, because they're not owned by a single family, but he acts as the owner, said we're not trading him. Aaron Rodgers goes on Pat McAfee today and says, like, it wasn't anything – I didn't want out, anything like that. I was just facing the reality of the situation that I'm not in control of what Green Bay chooses to do. Like, that's it. And I said it when it happened. I was like, he sees the reality. He could easily leave. Like, Green Bay could get rid of him, like they could do for any other player. And I was just mad because the media ran with it. They already had a list of teams he could play for next year. Just drove me nuts. I was like, this is not what he said at all. Then right after that, it was the ballot was announced and no one got in. And I was like, as if I needed another reason to hate the media.
It's just, I don't know. It's just so.
How do you just punt? We're not going to let anyone in. We're not going to let anyone in. I think that's so demeaning to the players and their careers. They don't deserve to be in. Like, that's not really your call, dude. Are they good enough to be there? If they're not, fine, don't vote for them. I'm totally fine with that. If they're not good enough to be in the Hall of Fame, fine. But to just not vote for them because they're like, and that's kind of been their attitude. Well, this dude's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. It doesn't matter. I don't care how the ballot looks. Does he deserve to be in? Like, do you understand my point?
Yeah, and totally. And I think that's where, like,
and I know I just kind of said it was shilling. He's not first ballot, whatever. But I mean,
right. I mean, but
sometimes there are guys like that. I get that.
At the end of the day, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Whether he is a Hall of Fame person or whether he may have talked himself out of the Hall of Fame on Twitter.
I think he did.
That's a different argument.
He's a little bit like Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens, who is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame now, but it took him, 2, 3, 4 years to get in finally. And it was, I think, mostly because he pissed off the voters a little bit. Kurt Schilling, I think, has done that. And it certainly doesn't help that he's very vocal about his conservative political affiliation. And the media being left-wing, that's not going to make them happy at all.
It seems to be a death wish at this stage in the world. But no, and the problem here is the argument that I'm having for Kurt Schilling, somebody else could very easily have for Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, who I don't think deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I'm not a Bonds or Clemens guy either.
Because of what they did.
Though I never thought about it this way. A friend said, like, he has argued for, my friend Andrew has argued for Bonds and Clemens to be in the Hall of Fame. And I always say, why? They cheated. And he said, because they were Hall of Famers before they cheated. I was like, yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I was watching MLB Network today, and I don't know who it was, but he said before 1998, Barry Bonds was probably the best player he'd ever seen. And I by no means am not saying that Barry Bonds did not have great years in Pittsburgh, that Roger Clemens did not have great years in Toronto and Boston. But at the end of the day, what they're known for, Barry Bonds is known for playing in San Francisco and hitting a bajillion home runs. You can't prove that he was not cheating while he was doing all that. You can't prove that Roger, while he was winning all those Cy Youngs and striking all those guys out in New York, you can't prove that he wasn't cheating. If you're looking strictly numbers, very obviously those two are first ballot Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Maybe two of the best that ever play baseball. But the Baseball Hall of Fame, and the president said it today, the guy that was on MLB Network, they look at more than just numbers. They look at character. They look at integrity. They look at the way that they impacted the game off the field. They look at all of these things. And if you're going to be a dickhead, that hinders your ability to get in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Barry Bonds.
That's fair.
Openly lied to judges and juries and anybody who asked him about taking steroids. Roger Clemens is one of the most hated guys in baseball. I mean, he was just an asshole to everybody. Kurt Schilling has since talked himself basically into a hole. I mean, like I said, these things mean something to baseball and to baseball writers and to baseball fans because of the tradition and pageantry and all these things steeped in baseball and into the essence of what baseball is. And I hate it for guys that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I hate it for guys on this on this ballot, guys like Todd Helton and guys like Scott Rowland and guys like
Yeah,
Omar
I'm looking
Vizquel,
at the ballot right now. I mean, there are a lot of Hall of Famers in here. Are we sure of how the voting works? Can you only vote for a certain amount? Like, can you only vote for like 10 guys? You know what I mean?
I believe you can only vote for 10 guys.
I think that's so stupid.
You don't have to make a vote. And they list at the top of the ballot.
Yeah, I know you don't have to make a vote. I remember someone posting a photo. I was like, my Hall of Fame 2021 ballot, clearly a voter in the media, didn't vote for anybody. I was like, why don't you just wipe your ass with it? I mean, seriously.
There were 14 voting members that turned in a blank ballot.
That is so
dumb.
That is so stupid.
There's not a whole lot that I would not do to be able to vote for the Hall of Fame. You're one of 400 dudes that has the ability to vote for the Hall of Fame, and you wipe your ass with it and turn in a blank ballot. Go to hell. Dude.
Yeah, in my opinion, you should lose your vote if you don't fill it out. This is in my opinion, that's a big deal. A Hall of Fame is a big deal.
Yes, I agree.
And maybe one time, fine, you forget to do it. I could buy that. But if you're doing it 2 or 3 times, I don't know. I don't know if anyone has done that on whoever's in charge of this. But if you haven't voted for for 2 or 3 years, you should lose your vote. I'm sorry, but you should. Even after one time, if you don't get it in on time, I'm willing to let that slide. But if you don't vote at all, I think you should lose it. Honestly, there are so many people out there who would love to have a vote. I would love to have a vote.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, I would have voted. Let's go ahead and go through this. So Schilling was first with 71.1% of the vote. Obviously, we've made it clear I would have voted for Schilling. Bonds and Clemens, I would not have. Scott Rowland, I probably would have. He is a Hall of Famer. Omar Vizquel is the guy that you have argued for. I remember when it was that big class a few years ago. I believe it was with King Griffey Jr. Was it Chipper Jones too? All on the same ballot.
Chipper.
Edgar Martinez, maybe.
Where was in class zone? Yeah, it was that Chipper and Junior class that were the headliners.
No, maybe Junior was 2016. I don't remember. But it was around the 2017 or 18 class. About 5 guys got in. Let me just go to it. And I remember you arguing for Vizquel in that class.
Yeah, and I can't remember if I argued that I thought he should get in it.
So there were 4. Okay, so there were 4 guys that year: Jones, Guerrero, Tomey, and Hoffman. I thought Edgar Martinez would get in, but he just missed it with 70%. He got in the next year.
Next year, yeah.
And then Vizquel, I remember you arguing for him. He got 37% of the ballot that year.
Yeah, I think, like you said, there's just so many guys on here that. I think Scott Rowland, obviously, I think is a Hall of Famer. Yeah. One of the best defensive third basemen of all time. Omar Vizquel has maybe the best hands in the history of baseball. One of the best defensive players of all time, regardless of position.
Todd Helton. I love Todd Helton. I mean, that's Mr. Rocky.
Todd Helton was a consummate all-star, the best first baseman until Albert Pujols came into the league. He was the best first baseman, and after Albert Pujols came into the league, he was the second best first baseman in the league. Regardless, I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think Jeff Kent is a Hall of Famer. I think what he did at second base is far and away better than what anybody at second base not named Joe Morgan and Jackie Robinson did. I mean, there are guys up and down this list. The guys that are on their first ballot, guys like Mark Burley.
I did want to touch up on that. I thought it was going to be Schilling and maybe one of these first ballot guys. I didn't think Burley would get in. I thought Torrey Hunter maybe I'm just higher on Torrey Hunter than most people. I thought Tim Hudson maybe was a possibility until I saw some of his numbers. But, yeah, the rest of these first ballots that were not that good are Ramos Ramirez, LaTroy Hawkins, Barry Zito, A.J. Burnett, Michael Kadire. I don't even know he was that good enough worthy of the Hall of Fame Kadire. Dan Herron, Shane Victorino. West Virginia's own Nick Swisher is already off the ballot. I'm not surprised he wasn't that good, but I do love Nick Swisher.
Yeah, once you get down toward the bottom of that, it's more of a – these guys are just
Like, I don't know how you even determine. Are those just guys who maybe at one point were the best player on a team they were on? Maybe.
Yeah, I think it's an impact thing. If they were an impact player for a number of years, I think. Yeah, I mean, a guy like Shane Victorino, he's very obviously not a Hall of Fame baseball player, but
he was above average for a few years.
For a long time in the mid 2000s up through the mid 2010s, I mean, he was a very, very good role player, starter, kind of plug and play, whatever you needed him to do in the outfield. Shane Victorino could do it. Won 2 World Series, if I'm not mistaken. One with the Phillies and one with the Red Sox. I mean, Shane Victorino was a consummate pro. Very, very good at everything that he was asked to do.
Didn't receive any votes.
Do I think that he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame? No. But he deserves to be on the ballot. I mean, it's the guy. Those guys are, like I said, maybe they don't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Getting on the ballot is a big deal. So I think it's fine. I hate it. Like I said, I hate it this year for guys like Andrew Jones and Todd Helton.
Is Andrew Jones a Hall of Famer, though? I really don't think he is.
I think he's borderline. I
don't know. After his numbers here are better than what I thought. So he hit 250. He hit 250 for his career, over 400 home runs, over 1,200 RBIs. That's pretty good. 10-time Gold Glove winner?
Yeah, I'm about to say 10 Gold Gloves. I mean, do I think he's a slam dunk? Absolutely to make it in at some point? Probably not. But I think he's a borderline guy, and I think he's a type of guy that might get in like a Veterans Committee vote. I mean, there's those type of guys, Andrew Jones.
Well, he went up considerably. This was only his 4th year on the ballot. He went up almost 15%. I mean, he'll get there if he continues to have that trend. He'll get there in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, which I'm fine with. Like I said, I think Andrew Jones, and I think us growing up where we did and being able to watch the Braves in those formative years and in the mid '90s and early 2000s, watch that team with all those guys. Maybe I have a little bit of a better.
Is Gary Sheffield in the Hall of Fame, or was he caught up in that steroid nonsense?
Gary Sheffield was caught up in the steroid stuff. He wasn't as he may have had one negative, positive test. I mean, or he may have. There may have been just rumors that he was caught up in it. I'm trying to remember. I'm not 100%.
He's another guy that I look at his numbers. Oh yeah, here's some on his Wikipedia page: steroid allegations. So he probably isn't going to get in. But this is another guy. Take away the steroids, he's a Hall of Famer. 290 batting average, 2,600 hits, 500 home runs, 1,600 RBIs, 9-time All-Star, 5-time Silver Slugger. He would be in if not for a steroid allegation. So I don't think he'll ever get in. But he's an interesting guy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and the thing is, when ballots and what happens when nobody gets in, you go and look at next year. And next year, of the guys coming onto the ballot, Alex Rodriguez is first year. He absolutely will not get in on the first ballot. David Ortiz is a borderline first ballot guy. He'll get in the Hall in his
Big Papi was very popular. I think he'll get in first ballot.
Everybody loves Big Papi, but I don't know if he's like a slam dunk first ballot guy. Other guys coming in on our first ballot: Jimmy Rollins, who won't get in on this first ballot; Carl Crawford, Jake Peavy, Justin Morneau. That's really it for guys that have a shot of getting in.
There was one I saw.
I mean,
Mark Teixeira, maybe. I doubt it.
Teixeira has an outside shot. Yeah. I mean, Prince Fielder has an outside shot.
Prince Fielder is one of those guys. What might have been?
Well, if he stays healthy, man, I'll tell you.
I mean, in my opinion, let me go look at his numbers. I think you could argue he should be in. Not first ballot, but
283 lifetime hitter, 1,600 hits, 319 home runs, 1,000 RBIs.
And he only played 11 years. I mean,
yeah, and that's
a guy maybe like year 8, 9, or 10 he sneaks in. I mean, if I was a voter, I'd vote him in just because of like what might have been if his career wasn't cut short.
I agree. There was a point in time where
he's been out of the league since 2016, almost 5 years. He's 36 now. He retired at the peak of his career. His
prime, he had to retire. I remember he had neck issues, and that's what kind of forced him out.
And he still hit 300 homers, over 1,000 RBIs, and what'd you say, over 2,000 hits?
1,600.
1,600. Okay. But still, I think that would probably get him in.
Numbers alone probably won't get him in. But like you said, he was, for a 10-year stretch, one of the most feared hitters in the league at a time when there were guys at his position like Todd Helton and Albert Pujols and Ryan Howard and Jim Thome and Justin Morneau. And first base at that time was filled with top of the line talent. Guys that are going to be in the Hall of Fame. Albert Pujols is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Jim Thome is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Todd Helton will get in. I mean, there's just all of his talent littered all over the yard at first base during that time.
And he was right up there.
To carve himself out as one of the most feared hitters in the league. I mean, like I said, looking forward, next year is going to be another one of those weird years. It's Schilling's 10th year. He's
off the ballot now.
It's Bond's. We'll see. I'm not 100% sure if he's actually going to be off the ballot, but if he is, it's Clemens' 10th year. It's Bond's 10th year.
I'm hopeful that they're at what, 60% right now, 61. Probably not. They've been hovering around that for about 3 years now. I don't think they'll get in, but with our generation, who the hell knows?
Right.
If I had to guess, I'd say probably not. There's still those old farts, that won't probably vote them in. And I've talked about this a lot with my dad. And I think it's true. If they don't get in next year, I think they're done. I don't see them getting in through the Veterans Committee.
Yeah, I think they have a better chance of getting in through the writers than they do the Veterans Committee.
Veterans Committee will see it what it was. I mean, I don't think they'll appreciate it. I really don't think they will.
I don't disagree with you there. It's just so weird, man. There's no real slam dunk guys. I mean,
this was just a weird ballot. I mean,
it
wasn't a great. I mean, when I looked at it, I was like, I don't see really any of these first ballot guys get in. I'm honestly surprised Mark Burley got so many votes. I remember him being good, but not that good.
Yeah, a lot of.
His ERA is 3.8, 1,800 strikeouts, so he'll probably get in. But a 5-time All-Star, he was good, but not that good. Torrey Hunter will get in. Again, maybe I'm just remembering Torrey Hunter wrong. I always thought he was a really good player.
Yeah.
Maybe not like an all-time great, but like just a consistently above-average player. So maybe he won't. Maybe he's not as good as other people think, but. I mean, 270 batting average, over 2,000 hits, over 300 home runs, over 1,300 RBIs. I think he'll get in at some point.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I don't know. I'm a little bit more bullish on Torrey Hunter. I don't think he has the offensive numbers.
Yeah.
Defensively, yes, I believe he's a Hall
yeah,
of Fame
shit,
caliber.
I didn't even see that 9-time Gold Glove winner. Yeah, I think he'll get in.
Yeah. I think what will Torrey Hunter, what the issue for him maybe is his offensive numbers. they're about what Prince fielders are.
Speaking of, so I was thinking about this. The voting, I hate one aspect of the voting, and it's if you don't reach a certain percent, you're off the ballot entirely. It's what, 5%? If you don't reach 5% of the vote, you're off the ballot forever. Just one time. Just one time. Like, I think that's so stupid.
I don't disagree with you. I don't.
Because there have been, I talked about this with my dad and my brother. There have been some good players who have been off the ballot entirely because of that rule. I think it was last year. Let me look. No, not last year. Maybe the year before. It was a year. I think it was that 2019 year. I'm on my phone. No, not that year either. Maybe 2018. Yeah. So there were some big names here that were left off the ballot. One was Johan Santana. Or I'm sorry, he was on the ballot but didn't reach 5%, so he was off the ballot forever. Johan Santana was a 2-time Cy Young winner. 3.2 ERA, almost 2,000 strikeouts. And he's not going to be voted in. There was another guy, too. I think it was Carlos Delgado. Off the ballot entirely.
Yeah,
I put up really good numbers.
Carlos Delgado getting 2 or 3% of the vote, and me being upset about that because I agree with you. Carlos Delgado I believe he's got over 400 home runs. I think he hit something.
Yeah, so he batted 280, over 2,000 hits, over 400 home runs, over 1,500 RBIs. Granted, he was only a 2-time All-Star and a 3-time Silver Slugger, but like those offensive numbers speak for themselves. And he didn't really play that long. He played 16 years. I mean, that's kind of a long time, but not that long. It's not like he was in the league for 20 years like Barry Bonds. That's the only reason why Barry Bonds got to where he was with steroids and playing in the league forever.
Yeah, he did play for 25 years, which helps. But, I mean, it's just, I don't.
Anyway, the reason why I was thinking about that was because I thought about, I was thinking of defensive guys because you were talking about Torrey Hunter. And he got me thinking about Keith Hernandez, who's not in the Hall of Fame and is an 11-time Gold Glove winner.
Keith Hernandez, a former MVP for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
He may have won an MVP for the Mets.
No, I know. No, he won it with the Cardinals.
Maybe the best part of his Hall of Fame resume is a former co-star of one Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, I've seen him in an interview, and they talked about that cameo, or not even cameo, but guest appearance he made on Seinfeld. He said he was more nervous for that than the World Series that he won with the Mets.
Yeah.
I just thought that was funny. But yeah, he did play a while. He played 16 years. He was just a 5-time All-Star, but he won an MVP, and he was an 11-time Gold Glove winner. Like, I get it.
I believe he won 2 World Series.
Yep.
I believe he won one with the Cardinals.
I get that his offensive numbers aren't great. He was a 296 hitter, 2,000 hits, over 1,000 RBIs, just 162 home runs. But like, I feel like we got to value some defense here. And he was an 11-time Gold Glove winner. You don't win. You don't win it that many times by accident.
And the thing is, too, he began his career on a team that had zero value for power. He was playing on a team with Vince Coleman, Ozzie Smith, Lou Brock, and Willie McGee. Hit in front of him for the Cardinals. Yeah, they were playing whitey ball, and they had nobody on that team could hit 30 home runs because they didn't need to, because they had maybe the fastest team of all time. I mean, just insane how much speed was on that field at one time. So Keith Hernandez didn't need to hit for a home run. He needed to hit a single to left field or a single to right field or a double in the gap. I mean, because Lou Brock would be running, Willie McGee would be right on his tail. I mean, he doesn't need to hit 30 home runs a year in his prime. He needs to play good defensive first base. He needs to drive in runs, and That's what his team called for, and that's what he did. He did it really, really well. Yeah, I totally agree that Keith Hernandez is a Hall of Famer. His numbers may not show it.
Yeah.
But absolutely.
Another guy I've seen people argue for is
so
Freddie McGriff.
Yeah, Freddie McGriff's another great example. It's guys like that make me so mad about the way that this is structured, the way that the Baseball Hall of Fame is structured and the way the voting goes. That guys that are 100% deserving of being in the Hall of Fame, for one reason or another, just don't get in. And the Veterans Committee is a step in the right direction of getting guys in that deserve to be in.
But do you know how that works? I've only seen as many as like 2 guys get in through the Veterans Committee. Do they allow more than that, or is it only just 2?
No. I don't know that.
I feel like I've only seen like 2. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't know if they have a cap on who they let in or how many they let in. But I do like that they've started to do that.
Yeah.
That guys.
This is so flawed, and I've heard my dad talk about it because we were bitching about this the other day because I told him, I was like, hey, they're projecting no one's going to get in the Hall of Fame this year, and he was like, well, that's bullshit. And then he started bitching about the writers, and he said how the writers shouldn't get to decide this, and I was like, well, who should? And he was like, well, I'll have to get back to you on that one. I was like, what do you want, the players? I mean, if that's the case, I think every above-average player would get in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very obviously a tough decision.
I don't have a problem with it being the writers, but the baseball writers have just
it's like
done a horrible job with it.
I don't know.
I've always thought the attitude was like, this guy's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, so I'm not going to vote for him. Like, at all. Yeah. Like, I don't care. And this is the same thing, like I said, that happened in 2013. I believe it was 2013 or 2014. That the writers didn't vote anyone in. And it was a similar situation. The ballot was kind of meh. It was a bunch of steroid users, pretty much. And the writers just didn't vote for anybody. And I think that's so terrible. Especially, I don't think it was the case this year. There weren't any guys with their last year on the ballot, were there?
No. But since we're talking about it, let's look at the 2013 ballot.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Craig Biggio was the highest vote getter at 68.2%.
Was he a first ballot guy, though? Because he got in the next year, I'm pretty sure.
That was ballot. He got in the next year.
See, he should have been in. Like, Craig Biggio is a Hall of Famer. And they waited.
Of the top 12 on that ballot, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 guys eventually ended up getting in. Of the 3 that didn't get in, Kirk Schilling, Roger Clemens, and Barry Bonds.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. It's the same 3 guys we're talking about.
Which is weird. That's neither here nor there. But Craig Biggio got in the next year.
Yeah.
Jack Morris got in the next year. Jeff Bagwell got in.
He got in. I can't remember when, but yeah, I know he got in.
After that, Mike Piazza got in a few years after that.
He was with King Griffey Jr. I remember that.
Yeah, that's who was with. That's who was with Jr. Lee Smith, how it took him 15 years to get in the Hall of Fame, still bewilders me. But he finally got in, and then Edgar Martinez, Alan Trammell, and Larry Walker got in very late on their ballots. Mm-hmm. I believe Edgar Martinez was on his last ballot. I believe Larry Walker was on his last ballot.
Larry Walker was last year, wasn't he?
Larry Walker was last year on his 10th ballot.
Yeah, you're right, 10th year. Barely got in, too, at 76%.
Yeah, and I believe he got in by 2 or 3 votes. I mean, if these guys are Hall of Famers, I totally agree with what you're saying, that not voting for them because you don't want them to be a first ballot Hall of Famer is stupid. Craig Biggio is very obviously a Hall of Fame baseball player.
And this is what I meant. This is why I asked. If there's a cap, then I get it. Like, if there are 10 guys, you can only vote for 10 guys, I'd be fine with, or like the logic, like, well, this is this guy's 10th year, this is this guy's first year, I'm going to give the nod to the 10th guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or, you just check boxes, and the next thing you know, you're already at 10, and then you left off, Todd Helton, who's a first ballot guy. You know what I mean? Like, if that's what it is, and we should have probably looked that up beforehand, but if that is it, I can get it. But not voting at all, I think, is incredibly stupid. And if it is that there is no cap, you can go in there and literally just check all the boxes. I think that is beyond stupid then.
Even if there isn't a cap, not voting is asinine.
Yes.
Those 14 guys that did not vote this year should vote next year. That's a really asinine way of thinking, because it doesn't matter if you don't think these guys are Hall of Famers. Being on the ballot gets you in consideration for being in the Hall of Fame, so you should at least get more consideration to vote for them in the Hall of Fame. I don't understand. Not vote for a single person on any Hall of Fame ballot. It's so dumb.
Yeah. You went in and out there.
What I did.
You had some good thoughts too.
Just how it is for not to have a vote for this Hall of Fame and not vote for some and turn it a completely blank ballot, because every person on that ballot at least deserves consideration for what they did on the baseball field to at least be considered to get a vote for the Hall of Fame. LaTroy Hawkins is not a Hall of Fame baseball player, but because he earned his way onto the ballot, he deserves at least your consideration for a Hall of Fame vote. Will he get it? No. But he deserves at least your consideration. And there are other guys that had better careers than him that deserve for you to check their name because of what they did on the baseball field. And for you to turn in an absolutely blank ballot is just asinine.
Yeah. So I'm looking up some of it here. It says a baseball player must have been active as a player for at least 15 years. And our argument for Prince Fielder, I don't think he meets that.
That sucks, because that
yeah, he was only 11, so he's not going to get in, which is a shame. But I think that's fair. Must have played in 10 Major League Championship seasons. I'm sorry. A baseball player must have been active as a player at some time during a period between 15 years before and ending 5 years prior to the election, which we knew that. Then must have played in each of 10 seasons. Must have ceased to be an active player at least 5 calendar years preceding the election. Okay, so hang on. Method of election. 6 members, blah, blah, blah. Voting shall be based upon players' record at playing, agility, integrity, sportsmanship, character, and contributions to the team, or which the player played. I'm just trying to find something here. Haven't seen it yet, but I know we're kind of pressed for time, and I don't want just a bunch of dead air.
I think that you have to vote. You can only vote for 10 guys. I think that's a rule. Not 100% sure though.
I haven't seen anything yet.
Okay, so it may not be.
We knew about 75% of the rule of the ballot. Maybe this is it. Hang on. Oh, yeah, you're right. An elector will vote for no more than 10 eligible candidates deemed worthy of election. Okay. So I thought that might have been a rule. It turns out we were both right. In that case, I can understand the logic of he's a first ballot. This is his first year on the ballot, but I can only vote for 10, and he's not one of them. I can totally get that then. But to not vote for anybody and not allow anyone to get in is completely ridiculous. Like, you're telling me of the ballot this year, none of these guys are worthy. Like we just said, Kurt Schilling's worthy. Scott Rowland is worthy. Omar Vizquel is worthy. Billy Wagner, Todd Helton. I'll throw in Andrew Jones, Jeff Kent, and then Burley Hunter. I mean, I think I just named 10 guys right there.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of talking in circles here. There's just no reason for a blank ballot to be. Give your vote up. If you're not going to vote for somebody, for anybody, vote.
So let's wrap things up here. Let's go to next year, and let's look at the ballot. Who gets in next year?
Next year,
if Schilling is still on the ballot, I would have to imagine he gets in.
If he is still on the ballot, I would agree with you that he probably gets. It's a toss-up with Bonds and Clemens.
I think it's pretty safe to say they've hovered around that 60% mark the last 2 or 3 years after getting some jumps for a while, but this is the last year. I don't see them making that big of a jump.
I don't either. I think Scott Rowland had a good chance of getting in next year.
He went up considerably. Wasn't it like 20% or something?
He went up 20% this year.
18, so almost 20.
That gets him to 70. So
I think that's enough of a jump to get him in. I mean,
he's in the realm.
Yeah.
If he's going at a rate. Who the first ballot guys next year?
Vizquel's at 52%, right? No, I'm sorry. He was at 49. He went down.
I was at 49. Billy Wagner jumped up 15%. Todd Helton jumped up 15%.
I think Helton could, but it's a lot to go from 44, really 45 to 75. Rowland, I think, can. Vizquel, maybe. I doubt Wagner or Helton, and then the rest of these guys, no.
The line for holdover guys, kind of Omar, and I think he's right at 50% or so. He may not get in next year. After he may get in. Scott may not get in next year, but may get in the year after. Just kind of looking at the first. Like I said, A-Rod won't get in.
No.
Ortiz had a shot.
Ortiz is getting in. I think so, at least.
I think Big Bobby had a shot to get in on his first ballot. I think next year, it would not. So there's kind of two.
Hey, we were just talking about Prince Fielder. He is on the ballot.
What? Good. Like I said, I think he deserves to be on the ballot. I think there's two schools of thought for next year. You either get a push and vote and get Schilling, Clemens, and Bonds in, or they stay the same and then they fall off the ballot, and then it's guys like Rowland and David Ortiz and Jimmy Rollins will probably get a good amount of votes on for maybe 25, 30%. But it's a lot. It's going to be the guys to watch. Will be the holdover guys: Rowland, Wagner, Vizquel, Helton, Kent. Those
it's
guys
just a
to watch,
really big jump. I'm not sure I've seen a dude make a 25% jump.
Looking to see like who maybe makes it into the Hall of Fame, who makes the jump close to making it into the Hall of Fame. Does that make sense?
I didn't really hear you.
And then so it'll be one of those years where it's not like seeing if somebody's in the Hall of Fame. It'll be seeing where these guys that are on the bubble, these guys that are getting closer, what their percentages look like. And then the Veterans Committee will induct a couple of guys. They'll induct Fred McGriff or something. So those are kind of the two schools of thought there.
I did hear them talk about that on MLB Network. How next year, it probably won't happen next year, but maybe the year after, once Schilling, Bonds, and Clemens are off the ballot, it's really going to clean things up. Because that's what's the problem right now is people, I think, are putting a lot of stock into Bonds and Clemens. Guys who should have been in already probably if they didn't do steroids. But they have, and people are still voting for them. and that has really mucked up the voting. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah, totally agree.
But yeah, of the first ballot guys, I think it's just David Ortiz. I think next year is going to be Ortiz and Scott Rowland. I think it's going to be just two guys.
Yeah, I totally see that. I totally see. But I think he can get over 18% or just under 18%. Yeah, I think he can get it.
All right, so we've done our complaining. Baseball's just got issues, man. I don't know how you can be a voter and think that it's okay just to not let anyone in, or just to not fill out a bracket. I'm sorry, ballot. I got March Madness on the mind.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just, like I said, the guys that are on the ballot, they are on the ballot because they deserve your consideration a vote.
I don't know 100% of how football does it. I know that it's slightly different. You still have to get 75%, but they do it where I forget. I don't know how it works, but they come out with a list, and then the people vote on that original list. Then it goes. They take a certain amount, and it goes to semifinalists. So the guys who are left off, I don't think are left off completely. They're just left off that year. Then they vote for the semifinalists. Then they vote for the finalists, which is, I think so much better. I don't know.
I agree.
I think that's way better. And that way you're not voting for 20 guys. Originally you can, but then it's the semifinalists. Then after that it's the finalists. Then you have a class of for football it's usually about 8 or 10 that get in, but that's why baseball is stuck with 3 to 4 at most getting in every year, because I think the ballot is 30 people.
It's backed up, so maybe one day they'll fix it. But
I wouldn't hold my breath with baseball. I really wouldn't.
I ain't gonna hold.
Anything else going on? I still can't remember the other thing I wanted to talk about. Off-season headlines. Anything else going on? I forgot.
You know who's making some noise are the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yes, they have. George Springer, big one. And then they're in on – I thought they were in on Bauer, maybe not.
They were. I'm not 100% sure if they still are.
Maybe that was another team I read that was after Chris Bryant.
Top of that lineup's going to be really good. Cavadigio and Kevin Bichette, or not Kevin Bichette, Bo Bichette, George Springer.
Vladdy Jr.
Could make some noise.
Yeah, that's an interesting team.
We're playing this year.
If the Yankees and Rays weren't so good, I think they'd have a shot to win that division, but maybe a wild card.
Yeah, they'll definitely be in a conversation for it. Yeah, like you said, that division's top heavy, but see the Jays make around a wild card spot. Yeah.
I was thinking. I mean, I got to do some research now because season starts in 2 months. It's usually late March.
Report in like 3 weeks. Yeah.
So about 2 months roughly till the regular season starts. Usually late March, early April. And I was just thinking about what teams I'm going to pick, and I was starting to like the Blue Jays, like you were talking about, until I realized that division is just really difficult. And then I'm trying to think of the other teams I could potentially pick, or I could pick for a wild card spot, if not Toronto, and I'm not sure I can think of anybody. There might be 3 teams from the AL East.
This year is just going to be so weird because there's a lot of teams that just aren't spending money. The entire NL Central is just not spending money. I mean, I haven't heard much from from either league's West teams. I mean, it's just there's teams that are spending money.
I think it's a lot because of COVID.
They're just not spending money. I mean, it's just it's weird. So it's going to be another weird year. I'm a distinct possibility that it's another Jordan or whatever the case may be year. So, it's time frame, type schedule. So we'll see how it goes. But like I said, I mean, it's just weird year.
I didn't catch much of that other than it's going to be a weird year. I'll let you go, man. You're busy with the Auburn basketball game going on. Your connection, I think, is poor.
Yeah, blame me, sure.
You're the one whose picture looks like it's from the 90s. It looks like I'm looking at a TV that's not HD. I mean, standard depth.
We're gonna do that.
I can't even. I was watching The Office today, and it was the episode of when Michael thinks he's in trouble with the mob, and he calls Jim for advice, and Jim says, "Just then you'll be saved." That's what I feel like you're doing to me.
All right. Well, welcome to Arkansas. So.
Hey, I mean, granted, I am in Pennsylvania right now, but was in West Virginia for a few years, and I'm sure it's not any better.
Sure, yeah, that's it. All right, brother. We'll talk later.
Yeah, I'll let you go, man.
Bye.
All right, later.